Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at one of the craziest legend teams I have ever seen in the Open Grade League. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Shift Treason, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Shift Treason's Open Grade League legend team is as follows. Shadow Dragon Breath Charizard as the lead, Seed Bomb Morpeko as the save switch, and a Shadow Earthquake Ho-Oh as the closer. ABA Fire Flying. How did this team get to legend? I have absolutely no idea, but today, we're going to find out together. So, without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, he picks up a bit of an awkward lead, Dragon Breath Charizard into Wigglytuff, but they don't check the fast move, they save switch into Drifblim, and Drifblim is immediately going to be hard punished by Morpeko. Something I instantly notice is that all 3 members of this team are running pretty non-traditional movesets. Typically, Morpeko runs Psychic Fangs over Seed Bomb, typically Charizard runs Wing Attack over Dragon Breath, and Ho-Oh, if it's played at all, typically is running Sacred Fire, its legacy move, over Earthquake. But with 3 pretty crazy Pokemon and some crazy movesets, I'm sure we're in for some very fun battles. Morpeko able to force both shields off the Drifblim, in comes Gastrodon. This is a double boosted Seed Bomb, and this is going to pick up the one-hit KO. Seed Bomb normally does not one-shot Gastrodon, but at +2, it absolutely will. Gastrodon gets KO'd, in comes Charizard as the opponent sends back in the Drifblim. Drifblim goes for the Icy Wind, Charizard is able to survive, Charizard now getting very, very low, but the good news is Ho-Oh with the shield advantage is about to burn down Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, one of my least favorite Pokemon in the entire Great League, and it's about to get flame cooked. Charizard exits with a parting gift of an air cutter that's not going to do much, in comes Shadow Ho-Oh, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Hopping into game number 2, picking up what should be a pretty solid lead, Shadow Charizard into Annihilate. Is the Annihilate on counter? Are they on low kick? They're actually on counter. A non-Shadow Annihilate on counter to me is a pretty big surprise, just because usually if you're non-Shadow, you will prefer the spamminess of low kick. But even the non-Shadow counters are adding up quite a bit on Charizard. Charizard no shields the Rage Fist, now very low. Can Charizard hang on? Yes, it can. Charizard with the 1 HP survive is able to make it to Air Cutter number 2. Annihilate double shields just to be met with the Shadow Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh would love nothing more than to get a farm down, but unfortunately, Annihilate is going to make a second Rage Fist, because the third Incinerate will not knock out before the Rage Fist is available, but the opponent doesn't throw their move. They had the move there, they don't throw it. Opponent sends in Carbink, and Carbink is about to get shredded by Earthquake. Earthquake lands, in comes Morpeko. Opponent not pivoting out. They reveal their final Pokemon in the back is going to be a Leafage Lurantis. What is this team? Annihilate, Leafage Lurantis, and Carbink. What a team. The good news is Morpeko will be able to close out this game very, very comfortably. So Morpeko easily able to make it to the Ore Wheel. That's going to be knocking out the Lurantis. This is now a +2 Morpeko. The Ore Wheel is back to Electric, and once again, we have another opponent resigning the match. The good news is the opponent not throwing the Rage Fist didn't cost them, because that game would have been a loss even if the final shield had been burned. Charizard into Gliscor in game number 3. Opponent safe switches a Jellicent, and that's a decision they're immediately going to regret as out comes Morpeko. Morpeko easily tanks the Surf. Morpeko can now overfarm massively, and what's going to make life very difficult for the opponent is the fact that Gliscor's Wing Attack is going to be resisted. So it's going to be a very difficult farm down if they try and farm down the Morpeko. Morpeko now 1 stage boosted, in comes the Gliscor, and Gliscor has to put up the shield or it's getting one shot as well. Dark Ore Wheel will get the shield, Switch Timer will be up momentarily, looking to try and pivot out, there it is, and in comes the Charizard. Even though this can only be the Sand Tomb, Charizard is going to be putting up the shield. Charizard trying to preserve as much HP as it possibly can. Charizard farming up, building up past the Blast Burn, baiting with the Air Cutter. Will the opponent decide to call the bait? They do call the bait, but Charizard gets the boost and gets a second Air Cutter. Now there's so much pressure on the opponent's final shield. They're sacking the Gliscor in the back. They have Feraligatr, and this Feraligatr is about to get torn to smithereens by boosted Dragon Breaths. Charizard flexes as it fires off the Air Cutter. Quick switch back into Morpeko. Morpeko cannot get farmed down before it's able to make the Ore Wheel. For game number 3, Ho-Oh not even needed. The Shadow Charizard Morpeko duo able to take all 3 knockouts and secure the win. Hopping into game number 4, Shadow Charizard into Azumarill. Now this is a catastrophically bad lead. Azumarill absolutely destroys Charizard, and it absolutely destroys Ho-Oh. So unfortunately, there's really not much play here. Charizard forced to stay in, try and do whatever resisted damage that it can do, but unless the opponent is devastatingly weak to Morpeko, this game is almost assuredly going to end in defeat. Ice Beam from Azumarill will take the knockout, in comes Morpeko. Morpeko racing to the Aura Wheel, but unable to get there before Azumarill is able to make another Ice Beam. That's going to pressure a shield from Morpeko. Opponent pivots out into Ludicolo, and Ludicolo will immediately be hit with the Electric Aura Wheel. While Ludicolo does survive, they pay a pretty heavy price as they lose a lot of their HP. Ludicolo trying to make the Weather Ball, they're unable to get there before Aura Wheel number 2 is reached. This Aura Wheel will be shielded. Ludicolo now has the Weather Ball. Ludicolo throwing on alignment there, a pretty surprising play from the opponent. Morpeko more than happy to take the free Thunder Shock and go for the full farm down. So Morpeko now up to +2 attack, very heavily boosted. In the back is Aegislash, and this is where things could get very bad for the opponent. +2 Aura Wheel, big damage onto Aegislash shield form. Ideally, Morpeko will want to bank energy and then pivot into the Ho-Oh, and that's exactly what happens. Ho-Oh is going to get one-hit KO'd by the Aegislash, but Aegislash has to switch into the Blade form. In Blade form, these Thunder Shocks are going to be hitting for big damage. They don't want to take that damage. They have to pivot out into the Azumarill, and when they do that, they just give 100 energy over to Morpeko. Morpeko launches the Aura Wheel. Azumarill gets KO'd. There's the pivot back into the Aegislash, but Aegislash is desperately racing to a charge attack that it can never get to. The speed of Morpeko just completely overwhelmed that team. Aura Wheel gets the shield. Aura Wheel number 2 is locked and loaded, and that's going to do it. Despite leading a Charizard Ho-Oh ABA team into Azumarill, this team's able to get the win because the opponent just had absolutely nothing for Morpeko. That was a brilliantly executed endgame. We move to the next match. We've got the Battle of Flyers, Shadow Charizard versus Shadow Toucannon. Shadow Toucannon just has absolutely insane shield pressure, but this is a rare moment where Toucannon does not have a pacing advantage. It's actually Charizard able to outpace, getting a shield and getting a boost with Air Cutter. Charizard just fully sacrificing itself here. Drill Peck will take the knockout, but this is an opportunity for Morpeko to get farmed. Opponent pivots out, sending in Quagsire. Morpeko able to make the Seed Bomb. This is double super effective. Do they respect it? They do not, but Quagsire survives. That is my biggest personal complaint about Seed Bomb, is the fact that Seed Bomb does not one-shot the Mud Boys. That is very tragic for Morpeko. Morpeko can't get the farm down either, forced to catch an Aqua Tail onto Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh takes massive damage, but the Morpeko has been preserved. In the back is Feraligatr. Ho-Oh gets to make it to the Brave Bird, but no, the opponent gets the catch. They catch Brave Bird onto Toucannon. Undercharged Brave Bird still takes the knockout. What a brilliant play from the opponent. And unfortunately, the opponent will be able to take home this win. That catch was everything. Aura Wheel gets the shield, but Feraligatr only a few Shadow Claws away from doubling up. And there it is. Morpeko knows this is the double up. This, unfortunately, is game over. Shield comes up, but there's nothing Morpeko can do. The combination of the Quagsire 1 HP survive, followed by the brilliant catch onto Toucannon, unfortunately denies the 5-0 set. So instead, Shift Treason is going to get the 4-1. And he included footage of him catching the Lapras as well. That's going to take him to 2993 Elo, and he has one more set to try and make Legend rank. And well, that's an incredibly good start, leading Shadow Charizard into Venusaur. Opponent safe switches into Walrein. It's the Shadow Walrein. Charizard gonna stay in and fire off Air Cutter, but unfortunately, Air Cutter is not a particularly powerful move. Walrein able to hang on very comfortably. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko even has to respect an Icicle Spear here. That's how glassy Morpeko is. Morpeko would love a farm down, but is not gonna get it. Morpeko unable to get the farm down, forced to fire off the Electric Aura Wheel, and Walrein matches shields. So Walrein really trying to get shields down. This will do a ton of damage onto Morpeko. Morpeko double shields. The shield showed up in front of the Walrein for a second there. Don't know why that happened, and the opponent pivots back into the Venusaur. Venusaur has to respect this Aura Wheel. It would pick up the one-hit KO. Switch timer is now up, and in comes Shadow Ho-Oh. Oh my goodness, look at the Incinerates. Shadow Ho-Oh absolutely melting to the Venusaur. Will Sludge pick up the one-hit knockout here? They're actually on Sludge Bomb, not Sludge, but it still fails to take the KO. Unfortunately, Ho-Oh not going to get the farm down. What this will do is set up Morpeko. In the back is Feraligatr. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to the next match, leading Shadow Charizard into Jellicent, and that is an incredibly bad lead. But I assume Charizard is running Dragon Breath for matchups just like these, where it has just a little bit of extra fast food pressure into the waters. Charizard gonna fire off Air Cutter unless this gets a boost. This could be pretty bad. No boost comes through. The opponent, I don't know if they ended up lagging a bunch or if they ended up waiting a turn and the game never updated. I assume they ended up lagging a bunch. I guess that's one way Charizard can win the Jellicent matchup, is if the opponent ends up lagging and Charizard gets like 13 Dragon Breaths of energy. Licky Licky does shield up the Blast Burn. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko more than happy to no shield as Body Slam is not particularly threatening. However, a second body slam would be a pretty big problem. Morpeko desperately needs to land an Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel is going to land on a Licky. That does put Licky very low, but it's only one away from the next slam. Licky gets there. Does Morpeko let this go and attempt to try and incinerate down? Yes, it's going to no shield. Unfortunately, that does not take the knockout, and now the opponent gets extra farm. In comes Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh gets the catch and sneak of the body slam, but even with all that free energy on Charizard, it still feels like everything is going wrong. Back in comes the Jellicent. Jellicent gonna bank energy, pivoting into Tinkaton. Maybe everything's gonna turn out okay. Tinkaton completely useless in the back. Tinkaton puts up the shield as Ho-Oh goes for the Earthquake. Ho-Oh able to make it to a Brave Bird as well. This is resistant damage onto the Tinkaton, but it's still enough to take the knockout. Switch timer will be up soon. In comes Charizard, and Charizard is able to make the Air Cutter. So with a little bit of luck due to the opponent lagging, and due to the fact that they had a Tinkaton in the back, he's able to get the win and move to 2-0 in this set. We move to game number 3 of the set, as Shift Treason queues into the fake M.E. Weedle. This trader's in-game username is M.E. Weedy. They have a capital I instead of an L to make it look like you're queuing the real M.E. Weedle. However, it's pretty easy to tell you're playing against the imposter because this M.E. Weedle does not have the world champion pose that only world champions have. So without that pose, it's pretty easy to determine that this is the imposter. Unfortunately, the imposter ends up calling the Air Cutter bait, and that's going to mean that Charizard does end up losing the ones. Charizard gets the boost, but it's too little too late, as Fearow is able to dictate switch advantage. Farm on Ho-Oh or Morpeko would be pretty valuable. Morpeko able to get a 2 Thundershock head start. In comes Quagsire. Morpeko tries to go for the CMP tie as it fires off Seed Bomb. We know Seed Bomb does not one-shot here. Quagsire no shields and pays a pretty heavy price. In comes Shadow Ho-Oh, going to be answered with the Licky. And unfortunately, it looks like the imposter M.E. Weedle is going to get the win. Ho-Oh no shields, opponent goes for a bad body slam bait, and suddenly there is life. If the opponent went for the Shadow Ball, or if they just shielded once and farmed all the way down, there was no lose con. But now, suddenly, there are lose cons in this game. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko has to no-shield the body slam. Morpeko needs to try and make it to the back-to-back moves. Morpeko unable to get there, and now it's a 50-50. Will the opponent go for the snipe? They do have a move on the Quagsire. Morpeko clicks Aura Wheel, and there is the snipe attempt. In comes Quagsire. Quagsire loses the energy, and the opponent's failure to click Shadow Ball when going up against the Ho-Oh actually costs them the game. Morpeko very low on HP, but makes the boosted Aura Wheel, knocks out Licky, and that should secure Legend as he now moves to 3-0 in the set. However, nothing better than hitting Legend on a 5-0, so let's see if it's possible. Pretty good lead, Shadow Charizard into Shadow Typhlosion. Shadow Typhlosion, an incredibly cool pick, and a Pokemon that seems to be gaining in popularity as of late. Typhlosion's coverage just goes absolutely everywhere in this current meta. Typhlosion farms up to 60 energy and will fire off Thunder Punch. Charizard puts up the shield. No, they actually go for a Blast Burn. They were covering for a catch, but no catch comes through. Charizard builds up to the Blast Burn, baiting with the Air Cutter. Air Cutter does get shielded, and now in comes Morpeko. Licky farms up to the back-to-back body slams. We've learned that Morpeko can survive the back-to-back body slams here. Morpeko will put up the shield covering for a Rogue Earthquake, but not an Earthquake this time, just going to be a lot of body slam spam coming out from the Licky. Morpeko is going to get outpaced here, which is quite unfortunate. This is where a lack of Psychic Fangs means that Morpeko is going to lose all of this energy. Because Licky is one off the next move, is able to get there, and it will outpace. However, this will set up an Incinerate farm down for the Ho-Oh, which is quite nice. Ho-Oh up energy is very clutch. Opponent actually defers the Incinerate onto Jellicent, and they pivot it in. But Ho-Oh up energy makes the Brave Bird. This needs to pick up the one-hit knockout. And it does! Jellicent gets KO'd. In comes Typhlosion, answered with the Charizard, and Charizard's able to make the Air Cutter. Air Cutter will take the knockout, but the bad news is the opponent has energy on Licky. Licky can throw one rollout in the move, but they throw on alignment. What are they doing? They could have got a rollout and a Shadow Ball, but they throw a Body Slam on alignment. It does not KO. And this team moves to 4-0 in the set. Now looking for the perfect 5-0 set to Legend, Shadow Charizard into Gogoat. Typically, Gogoat is run with a double fire team in the back, but it looks like this is not the double fire team that I was expecting, as this is Gogoat plus Politoed. The good news is that the Gogoat doesn't really have anywhere to go, but if the opponent is running something like a Carbink in the back, that could get very bad very quickly, as this team doesn't have a Pokemon that beats Carbink. Politoed will put up the shield. They can take advantage of the fact that they do have pretty nice pacing. Morpeko desperately trying to make a move, but Politoed was afraid of Psychic Fangs, so Politoed will fire off the Weather Ball. In comes Charizard. Charizard forced to go down a shield. This Politoed spam is absolutely unreal. Charizard will be able to knock out with the Air Cutter and hopefully get a boost. And you just have to fingers crossed hope that it is not Carbink in the back. Politoed will get KO'd. In the back is Dragonite, and this game is going to be a win. This is going to be a 5-0 set to Legend. Air Cutter shielded up. These are boosted Dragon Breaths. Look at Charizard go. Dragonite forced to throw energy, and now Shadow Ho-Oh is going to win the game. In comes Shadow Ho-Oh, not quite able to get the Incinerate down, but Ho-Oh can put up the shield, and the Gogoat can never make it to the game-winning Rock Slide. In comes Gogoat. This poor Gogoat is about to get absolutely eviscerated by Brave Bird. This is a Shadow Brave Bird from a Ho-Oh. Gogoat never stood a chance, and that is the perfect 5-0 set to Legend. The 4-1 in the first set, barely missing Legend, but the exclamation point at the end, the 5-0 set, getting to catch another Lapras. Lapras not going to jump out of that Pokeball, and he's able to claim the 5-0 set and climb up to 3063 ELO. Big congratulations to Shift Treason. Shift Treason is one of the most creative team builders in the entire Go Battle League. Every time I queue into him, he's always running some crazy spice, and he plays it incredibly well. Last season, he very frequently ran Triple Fighter. He would run Dragonite Double Fighter. He ran, I believe it was some Steel type in Double Fighter. I can't remember what the lead was there, but I remember there was very frequently a Pangoro that just core broke me to smithereens. So he always runs very glassy, very fun teams, but he's able to pilot them very well. And this is a very atypical team. It relies on information asymmetry, which is basically the concept of, in a blind 3 format, you know what your team has. Your opponent does not, and that's information that you can use to your advantage. Like, typically, if an opponent sees a Charizard lead and they have a Grass in the back, they would assume that when the Charizard's out of the way, the Grass type could do quite well. Like in that game, they assumed their Gogoat was going to be able to sweep in the end game just for it to be a Shadow Ho-Oh in the back, and the Shadow Ho-Oh absolutely annihilated the Gogoat. So ABA teams can offer some advantage just because they're very difficult to try and team read, and I don't think anyone would ever predict the Shadow Ho-Oh in the back if they led into a Shadow Charizard. So I do think that by publicizing the team, it would make it difficult for trainers to try and copy the team and have similar results with it. But I just wanted this video to kind of be a dedication to what a mad lad Shift Treason is. What an incredible team. The 4-1-5-0 to Legend is an emphatic statement that even running a team as crazy as this, Shift Treason was still racking up the wins. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching content like this, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys always very much, and until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.